The Epstein Files, Part 11. After death, dispersion of responsibility. When Jeffrey Epstein died in custody, the criminal case ended. But the system did not stop moving. It reorganized. This episode examines what followed, how responsibility dispersed, how institutions responded, and how accountability shifted from courts to documents, from verdicts to interpretation. Because when a central figure disappears, systems do not collapse. They adapt. In the immediate aftermath, attention turned outward. Without a defendant, prosecutors could no longer pursue criminal charges. But civil litigation remained. So did records. So did questions. The story did not conclude. It fragmented. Civil lawsuits accelerated. Victims sought damages. Discovery requests expanded. Depositions were scheduled. This phase was quieter than a criminal trial, but no less consequential. Because civil court does not seek punishment. It seeks disclosure. One of the most significant developments came through document unsealing. Court filings that had been sealed for years were reviewed for public release. These documents did not deliver verdicts. They delivered context. Emails, flight logs, financial arrangements, testimony summaries. Each piece incomplete on its own, collectively revealing. The unsealing process was deliberate. Names were debated. Redactions contested. Courts weighed privacy against public interest. This tension defined the post-Epstein phase. Not secrecy versus truth, but exposure versus fairness. Institutions named in documents responded cautiously. Statements were issued. Legal teams intervened. Associations were minimized or contextualized. The language was careful. Because proximity, even without charges, carries reputational gravity. This period demonstrated a fundamental truth about power and accountability. Criminal law assigns guilt. Civil law distributes consequence. Public opinion assigns meaning. None operate in isolation. Meanwhile, government agencies conducted internal reviews. The Department of Justice examined prosecutorial decisions. The Bureau of Prisons addressed operational failures. Reports were released. Findings acknowledged error. But accountability remained abstract. No single decision-maker bore responsibility. This diffusion was structural. Large systems rarely concentrate blame. They document failure. They recommend reform. They move forward. For the public, this created dissonance. There was visibility without resolution. Information without conclusion. Transparency without finality. This is not accidental. It is the natural outcome of cases that end without trial. Media coverage evolved. Initial intensity gave way to analysis. Long-form reporting replaced breaking news. The focus shifted from Epstein himself to what his case revealed. About wealth. About access. About institutional boundaries. Victims continued to speak. Some publicly. Some anonymously. Their accounts were not new. What changed was reception. The absence of a defendant altered perception. The narrative was no longer adversarial. It became reflective. This phase also exposed the limits of narrative coherence. Without a trial, there was no single storyline. No opening statement. No closing argument. Only fragments. This ambiguity invited interpretation. Not all of it responsible. Conspiracy theories flourished. Speculation filled gaps. This episode does not engage with those claims. Because speculation thrives where process fails. And process had failed. The most important outcome of this period was not revelation. It was precedent. The Epstein case became a reference point for legal ethics, for prosecutorial discretion, for institutional accountability. It entered textbooks, policy discussions, academic analysis. Yet precedent does not equal reform. Recommendations were made. Some procedures changed. Others did not. Systems acknowledged weakness. But acknowledgement is not transformation. This episode is not about assigning guilt by association. It is about observing how responsibility dissolves when structure allows it to. When accountability is collective, it is often functionally absent. The Epstein case after death became a mirror, not of individual crime, but of systemic tolerance, of how complexity can protect continuity. What remains is documentation, records that will outlive individuals, files that cannot testify but can inform. This is where accountability now resides. In archives, in memory, in sustained attention. This episode marks the beginning of the end, not of the story, but of the legal arc. What follows is reflection, interpretation, and legacy. In the next episode, we step back. We examine what the Epstein case ultimately represents, not as scandal, but as structure. End of Part 11.